Yes, so it started. Uh, Hello everybody. I'm Toru. I am right now in Tokyo, and I belong to Chuo University, Tokyo, but used to live in Osaka, and right now I'm based in Nagoya. Anyway, let me share my uh, files to your chat. Uh, First, I send PDF of this introduction.
Impression of Bharath.
Yes, now intro PDF is on chapter one. Then brief history of Indian comics. Now I'm sending. This one is heavy, so I don't know everyone can download it or not. Yes, two files are up now in chat. So if you want to download, please download from there. Yes, and then no.見えてますかね。
見えてるのよ。
It's not moving. 1 minute, please.
倒せば動くんじゃない？
いや、動かないですね。Yes. Yes, let me start now. So, this is part of Japanese Association for South Asian Studies, and this is a second event of its social alliance. And first, let me explain about what is social alliance event of JASAS. Partially it's written in Japanese, but I speak in English. JASAS is founded in 1988, and it has its home page. And this social alliance activities started last year, 2 years back. And this is the second event of that. Then today's program is like this. And first, I would like to explain why I have chosen the focus on Indian comics. This event is named as Indo-Japan Comics Exchange. But today we are mainly talking about Indian comics and why I'd like to explain this. As you know very well, today Japanese manga is consumed in India mostly by applications.
人のマイク一緒ですか？Everybody, please turn off your mic.
Yeah, please turn off your mic. Some noises are coming. Can you?
I'm cutting here. Everybody, can you please turn off your mic if your mic is on?
Thank you very much. And anyway, so uh, mm, so yes, so mostly today I believe Indian people are consuming Japanese manga through uh, online application software, and that's the situation. Mm, Again, mm, I don't know why it's not moving. Mm. Yes. So there was an experiment on one comic, India calling me now. In Japanese, it's 今、インドに呼ばれて. I cannot explain everything of this project, but anyway, this comics project, which was launched both in India and Japan, failed, I feel, because, yes, uh, because the story was good and it was structured good. Still, it is not very easy to make correct interpretation understood by uh, the people of different culture. I have written it here, but I don't have time. So anyway, what I feel is it's not easy to consciously manage the common man's interpretation of cultural differences. And today, Japan's manga is a globally shared culture, multicultural phenomenon. So it's futile to consciously manage it. And there will be no correct interpretation on this multicultural phenomenon. So therefore, there will be no proper strategy to manage it. That's why I'm not going to talk about this event is not planned for analysis of the strategy for Japanese people to uh, make business in India. Instead, we want to focus on how the Indian context of comics is and how Japanese manga is working today in the context of India. That's the reason why I have decided this event focus on Indian comics. Then this file is over. Now I try to shift to brief history of Indian manga. This one is a PDF file, so I hope you have PDF file of this one. Again, I cannot explain everything of this file. It's not shared. No.
これどうして
お、
これと繋がってんの同じ
同じやつ。
あ、そう。
こっちに
出てるよ。
出てます。
こっちは
こっちは出てるけど、
OK。
このページでいいか
最初のカードのと一緒のっていうのが。
出てますか。
出てます。
もうちょっと内容出てないですけど。
OK。 Mm. Can you see this file of brief history of Indian comics? I suppose you are watching this, so I will start. So, as I told you, I cannot uh, explain every single this file. But anyway, as you know very well, there are many traditions in India that could be considered as the ancestor of comics, like this one, West Bengal's Patta Chitra, and then Rajasthan's Toru. Then in the late 19th century, political cartoon tradition started in India. These pictures belong to Awad Punch, and the left one is of 1877, and the right one is 1879. So it was modeled, the London Punch was its model, but anyway, it was written in Urdu those days, and it started like this. Then, as you know very well, Shankar came in the mid 20th century, and he was like the cartoonist of independence movement post independence era. This left one is by Shankar. Then right one is famous R.K. Lakshman, a common man. There are many political cartoonists in India. This one is the hero of Lakshman. His name is David Law. Anyway, then there are other cartoonists like Mario Miranda and this Thomas Samuel, then Kutti Rajendra Puri of Oil Vision. If you are interested, please read this file later. Then comics in India started in the 1960s. First, it was initiated by Indrajal Comics, I believe. It was started in 1964. And Phantom was famous series of Indrajal Comics because this story is located in colonial situation and it was close to Indian experiences. That's why they say Phantom was quite popular in the 60s in India. Then the famous Amarchitra Katha started in, I think, 1967, yes. And it has many research books by now. This one is educational comics and both in English and Hindi. As you know, you can buy these Amarchitra Katha comics in Indian shops, bookshops. Then Indian comics used to exist along with children's magazines. If you are Indian, you know very well this Champak and Tinkle. And other than these, the magazines like Target existed. And also, Satyajit Ray's family ran Sandesh in Bengali. And it also had comic section in it. Then Tintin, French comics, it was very popular in India and it has many editions of Indian languages. This box set is Bengali edition, then this right picture is Hindi edition. again Bengali edition. So in this way, comics used to be read in as comics itself and as well as in children's magazines also. Then Chacha Chaudhary came in 70s. Along with Chacha Chaudhary, Diamond Comics had this Chani Chachi. Anyway, then Raj Comics came during the 1980s. And it had many heroes. It has many heroes. It's still very popular in India. Then today we can see many collectors editions. Its first hero is said to be Nagraj. Then this picture is the collector's edition of Arya Nagraj series. Then now it is in many forms, in many formats. This one is called Nagayan. The hero Nagraj now has Narayan like Ramayan like epic comics too today. And then Large Comics is publishing multi-hero comics too these days. Then there are many other comics companies. There used to work many other comics companies. One is Manoj Comics. Its hero was its famous series was Ram Rahim and Hawardar Bahadur. Then Tulsi Comics had Jambu. Like that. I believe 80s and 90s had these comics very popular. Then graphic novel started in India in 90s. It is said that Arijit Sen's River of Stories, which was started in 1994, this is the first Indian graphic novel, people say. Arijit Sen is doing many activities, ecology-related activities also. Then this one is published last year. It is about food and farming, as you see. Then after that, major publication was Sarnath Banerjee's Corridor, which came out in 2004. I think this was the first Indian graphic novel which we could buy in popular Indian bookshops, common Indian bookshops. Then he had a second graphic novel, One All's Wonders Capers, and it had French edition Calcutta, and it was also read in France. Then he had 3 volumes in 1910s. Then he started Phantomville Publisher in mid-2000s. These two graphic novel came out, The Believers and Kashmir Pending. But somehow it's not, I think, functioning today. Then came Amrita Patil's Kali in 2008. I don't have time now. Then Pen's Moonworld came out in 2009, I think. He has many wonderful comic books. This one is published last year. Then other comics books came out, many, from late 2000s to early 2010s. Then today's speaker, Bharath Murthy, he covered Japanese scene in late 2000s, then started Comics India in 2010. Then his own graphic novel came out in 2015, which we will hear from himself later. This I don't have time now, so let him speak himself. Then many comics anthology came out in India. This Power came out in 2012. Then Obliterary Journal came out in the same year, first volume. Then Vishwajyoti's Ghosts, this side, that side came out in 2013. Then Obliterary Journal Volume 2nd, 2014. Then this women's volume came out in 2015. Origin Sen edited first hand came out in 2016 and 18. Then Bharath Murthy's Vérité came out, first one came out in 2018. Second one was in 2019. Then third one 2 years back. Then long form came out. Then lesser known ink lab and again Origin Sen editing Comic Sense for young people started. Then this Cutting Chai, this one is also lesser known, but it has very good quality, which I found in Delhi Comic Con. Then today, Indian comics scene is changing rapidly, I think. This Shakti Comics is publishing foreign comics mostly, translating many into Hindi, etc. Then Alpha Comics is started by Basu Gupta, who used to work for Large Comics. And it has this new series, which is becoming popular, which are becoming popular in India, I believe. Then this Bullseye Press, this one is, this one has very good art. This one is Indian Dracula. But the feature of this publisher is, in many cases, they collaborate with South American artists. And Indian author is creating its story, and then picture is drawn by South Americans. And in this case, you can see this this woman is saying this whole ye shadi nahi ho sakti culture, where the bride or the groom runs off with somebody else with complete disregard for the consequences of their actions. So Hindi is partially used. So this one is totally for Indian use. But still, South American artists are creating the pictures of these comics. I feel this is interesting phenomena. Indian comics is becoming global now. So there are many companies, and this Dorisian Comics has its comics on Webtoon also. So then yeah, many. Then today, many Indian comic artists are drawing comics in the style of Japanese manga. You can see this quite Japanese-like panels. This is from the company Blind Kabi. Then you can see the middle panel has really distinctively Japanese, like panel. Its changes and its tones are very Japanese. Then today's speaker, uh, Aparna Chaurasia's Soul Contact. It has very Japanese taste also. Later, we'll hear the story from herself, I think. I cannot differentiate if this is Japanese or Indian. So in this way, Indian comics is adapting Japanese elements. And then this is again interest phenomena. Recently, Bangladesh had political upheaval. Then young people draw many pictures on walls, its phone walls, and uh, its wall painting, wall art is collected now on this website. You can check this. And we can see many Japanese like on the comics elements on this uh, wall art. We can see One Piece, and I don't know this right one is in what in which comic form, but I believe it has elements of many traditions, and in this way, today this comic culture is quite globalized, and Japanese manga is one important element among that. And I'm running out of time, but in 2020s, we are witnessing the publication of wonderful Indian graphic novels. This scale work has great artworks. Then this pizza flip. It is originally in Malayalam, but now it's translated into English. The story is a gamble addict person uh, uh, mm, on gamble addict person, and it has very poetic and deep story. Then French author like Simon Lamley. Uh, his graphic novel, uh, I cannot differentiate it from Indian graphic novel. It's very Indian. Then there are many authors. This Mahabharata comics by Van Pati and Banerjee, it's really fantastic. It has a fantastic quality. And even the scholars like Bharata Chatterjee are praising these comics. You can see very dynamic art in its pages. Then there are many fantastic children's comics also. This Somesh Kumar's Little by Little, it's still in progress, but this one is quality was very good. So I hope you support his project to complete this story. Then Smith Kumar's many comic books are there. Many political monographs are published. And these self-publication graphic novels has also very good quality. Then this Japanese comics are also there. Then, of course, different kinds of comics, propaganda comics are there. The military comics are there. So manga media, comics media is used in many ways today in India. Then there are non-resident Indian comics are there. Sometimes its stories are located in US, not in India, but these are also sold in Indian shops. Uh, Now time is over. uh, I participated in Delhi Comic Con in last December, and this poster is free compliment for this Comic Con. And this one is South Korean comics. So again, we can see the comics of many countries flooding into India. Yes, I think I will finish my presentation here. Sorry, it was very rough presentation. Thank you very much.ねうんもう、Okay, okay. So now we will have second speaker, Mr. Bharath Murthy. Can you hear me now? Do you have
Hello.
any file to display? Okay, so
I will share my screen.
yes,
Yeah, I have a small PPT.
thank you very much. As you know very well, Mr. Bharat Murthy is an Indian graphic novel artist, filmmaker, and he has many activities. And then, yes, I think he'll speak himself. So now please start your presentation. Yeah, I think, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
So I just so thank you all for inviting me for this Indo-Japan comics exchange. Thank you, Toru, and thanks Ryan and Aparna also for participating. It's this kind of an event, this kind of exchange, this kind of discussion is, I think, essential for us to learn more and to take and to grow Indian comics culture, and take in valuable lessons from Japan, as I have always been saying. I have had a long association with Japanese comics, as Toru already said, and I just want to quickly kind of give you an overview of what I have done. And in terms of, I'll try to stick to its relation with Japanese comics. I kind of discovered Japanese manga when I was in film school in Calcutta in the early 2000s. And when a lot of translated English manga, like Japanese manga translated into English, was being dumped into Indian markets in bookshops. So suddenly there was all kinds of manga available in bookshops in Calcutta without any kind of order. And so we had this kind of assortment of things. And that was a huge discovery in the early 2000s, and for me. And I started reading some of them. And most importantly, I started reading Osamu Tezuka's Buddha. And I must say that that particular series, Osamu Tezuka's Buddha, which is published by a mainstream mainstream international publisher and a multinational corporation, HarperCollins. So it was prominently displayed in a cheap Indian edition in bookshops, and and that remains in print, and it's a very popular series. Sorry, I don't have a picture of that, but it is in 8 volumes. And I read Osamu Tezuka's Buddha, and that completely kind of transformed me. And suddenly I started seeing comics as something that I could do. Previously, of course, I had been reading comics and I trained as a painter. I studied painting, but I never thought that I would be able to draw my own comics. But it was primarily that particular work that I would credit for me to start drawing. And it directly led to my first book, which is The Vanished Path, which is also about the Indian Buddhist past. And so it led me on a journey, and I actually traveled to these historical sites related to the life of the Buddha. And Indians, they generally don't travel to these places because Buddhism is quite a minor religious practice in India today. It used to be the dominant one, but so people don't go there, barring certain new converts in recent times, the Ambedkarite Dalit Buddhists, which is also a political movement in India. So you will find a lot of Ambedkarite Buddhists Indians traveling to these sites, but not other Indians. So anyway, so this became a book. And also this was also published by the same publisher that published Osamu Tezuka's Buddha. So that was an interesting coincidence. And in this book, I very consciously tried to incorporate everything I learned from Japanese manga. And therefore, of course, it is in black and white. And I actually started using manga nibs, which were starting to be available in the Indian market. Previously, we didn't have access to manga nibs. And in fact, most people used a thin brush. And if you see a lot of the Indian cartooning also, it was always done with a thin brush. And Indians are more used to doing drawing lines with a brush rather than with a pen. But I consciously started using manga nibs, and this was the result. It's just one page, but you get the idea. So cut to recent work, which is this is from yesterday. A short comic that I did was shown in the University of Salzburg in Austria. And so it was a university art show, and students had interpreted a comic of mine, which I did as a scroll, as a long scroll. And so they had made this kind of a display. And so this is kind of my recent work. And speaking of AI, because you showed it's a recent comic made by Apu Pen, which is also talking about AI, artificial intelligence. And so the top story is taken from a Google chatbot, which where this Google engineer claimed that AI has become sentient. This Google chatbot has become sentient and it has come alive. And so I used that conversation and turned that into a comic. And so there are two parallel narratives running in this story. I won't get into the details of it, but as you can see, my comics work since then has come to these kind of things. But I'm also working on a new long graphic novel about Gandhi. It's a biography of Gandhi, and you can be sure that a lot of the techniques from manga will definitely, you will find it expressed in the work, which I've just started. Coming to Vérité, it happened because of this fortuitous kind of meeting between Mitsuhiro Asakawa, Ryan Holmberg, and myself. And Asakawa had been following my work for some time, and which I had no clue about. And we met online on Facebook. And at the time, I was trying to revive the first Comics India. And then I thought that I should find a new kind of format, and where we decided that we'll try to introduce some Gekiga, particularly early Gekiga from the 60s and 70s, which of course Asakawa and Ryan had access to. And then there would be Indian comics. So here I consciously tried to kind of bring Japanese manga of a certain kind, realism, and trying to even the travelogue, the form of the travelogue, and this kind of a personal narrative, and also innovations in the medium, to try and put that together with Indian comics, new Indian comics that some of which I commissioned, some were done by some I found that I thought were interesting, and even my own work is published. Short work is published in this. Of course, Vérité 3 is the latest one. It's been a while since we are still, Ryan and I are still yet to come up with Vérité 4. But I can tell you that I'm working on it. Some of the comics need to be finished, but hopefully this year it will be out. In Vérité 3, something that Ryan can elaborate on is the publication of Bloody Stump Samurai, which has its own story in India, the history of its presence in India, and its final resting place in Vérité magazine. So maybe Ryan can talk a little bit about it later. So these were things that these were points I just made, because these are questions that Toru had raised. How do Indians access Japanese comics is something he had asked. And I would like to say that a lot of Indians today read Japanese manga online. And more and more the shift is towards, at least for young people, the shift is towards webtoons, which they're easily able to access on the phone. And since everybody has smartphones these days, so there's been a marked shift among young people towards webtoons. And so therefore they are Korean comics and not Japanese comics. So this is something I have observed in my institution where I teach, in Srishti Manipal in Bangalore, where I'm speaking from. So how is alternative manga received, and how is manga received in India in general? It is definitely a certain urban phenomenon. It's in the big cities, not so much in the smaller towns, where there is still the influence of the old American comics like Phantom and Mandrake and these things, which are being in fact reprinted in Hindi. And the new work that is coming out, say for instance from the Indian Comics Association, which is a kind of a conglomerate of small publishers who also participate in Indie Comics Fest, the festival that we started, Independent Comics Festival that we started, which I'll speak about a little bit. So there also the main influence continues to be the DC Marvel American comics format of short story, one single chapter short story magazine, and in full color. And that seems to be the model. But there's also a gradual understanding of manga iconography, and there is a conscious intention to incorporate manga iconography, as Toru also showed, and I'll show one more example. They're trying to incorporate it into Indian work, which is something that I find very odd, and something that we should maybe talk about later, whether this kind of thing is really working, this use of manga iconography. In terms of genre, there's a horror which is very popular in India, and which is very strange because one of the first manga authors I met was Junji Ito, And interestingly, a lot of young people in India have read his work, and he is a very, very popular manga artist for Indians who are into reading manga. Somehow Junji Ito's manga has been available in Indian bookshops for quite some time. I don't know how that has happened, but the access to his work has been there. And so there is a certain kind of a fandom of for Junji Ito. And I'm always surprised when 18-year-olds tell me now in class that they've read Junji Ito. So particularly female readers. Having said that, I just wanted to briefly just give you a rough idea of kind of the way iconography has shifted in the case of the image of the Hindu god Ram. And this is a 19th century painting by Raja Ravi Verma, and the first realistic depictions of Hindu gods and goddesses happened in his work, and which directly influenced Indian comics. So if you see this is one of the first adaptations of Indian comics in comic form. First adaptation of Indian mythology in comic form, and this is Valmiki's Ramayana. It happened in the late 70s, early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And you see the direct influence of that kind of realistic painting in comics. And this has remained the model of comics drawing till today. Just one more page. Now, I brought this up because this film is the first anime. In fact, it's the first Indian full-length animation film with Indian themes in it, though it is made by Japanese. And it has just been re-released after many years. It was made in 1992, but released 2 days ago on January 24th in India. After many years and after a lot of work of restoration and redubbing and everything. And so this iconography also was very much influenced by the people who worked on Amar Chitakatha and those artists. And this Japanese anime, Ramayana, was the first Indian feature film, full-length feature film, featuring Indian mythology. And it remains a favorite for a lot of people. I think this has kind of achieved a sort of a status of a cultural icon today, and it'll be interesting to see whether the film re-release is a success or not. But it is in the theaters right now. And of course, the image of Ram has a very strong political, on the political right wing, which is currently the ruling government in India. And they built this temple, which is part of their election manifesto. It's a political project. And they definitely used that is another image of Ram. And this is part of political propaganda. So the political propaganda imagery and comics imagery in mythology are quite connected in India. Then you have these kind of other adaptations, which are like fantasy versions. This is of the Mahabharata, which is the other epic. And so these kind of works have also appeared in the Indian context. And recently, for instance, there is the monkey god Hanuman, which is also part of Ramayana. You see this new kind of iconography that is emerging, which is very comics, coming from comics, kind of the hard graphics, black and white, almost noirish image. And this is very, very new iconography that is very, very popular, particularly in Bangalore. And you find them on scooters and behind taxis and car windows and things like that. Very popular image. In fact, more popular than Ram. It's this Hanuman image. Then you have this kind of a graphic style, which is Amrita Patil's adaptation of Mahabharata. And so there is this kind of artistic interpretation of mythology as well. There's this kind of contrast. There's also in visual art, we find this sort of image of, this is a Hanuman in the back, and then there's Ram and Sita. This is by M.F. Hussain. I just wanted to show these pictures because to show the kind of diversity in the iconography of the same character. Like there's the same character, but there is this kind of difference in the way it is interpreted, and that is very much part of the story here. This is what I wanted to show. This is a manga version of Ramayana. It's recently published. It was then independently published, and it was there at the Indie Comics Fest, the last Indie Comics Fest. So you have very the design of the characters are very much from coming from manga, and you also have the chibi or the cute versions, the transformation of the character into cute versions to have these kind of funny gag scenes. And this kind of thing where you have realistic imagery and you have this cartoonish image for the gag scenes is straight off from manga traditions. It did not exist in Indian comics before, but you now start seeing some of this happening in Indian comics. And this is Ramayana, the mythological work, and definitely Japanese manga has entered that space very strongly. Do I have any time? Some more time? Maybe.
Yes, you have 8 minutes. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I just put a list of points, or to show what the scene is in India, and to say that there are very few monthly. In fact, there are hardly any monthly comics magazines, barring Tinkle. Tinkle is the one monthly comics magazine for children, which is being consistently published. But the lack of monthly comics magazines is definitely, I would say, hinders the development of comics in India. And I think if there's anything that we can learn from the Japanese, it is the creation of that ecosystem of the magazine, of the comics magazine in black and white, and which is a monthly system, a monthly periodical. And that nobody has attempted so far. And so that remains a problem. I personally am trying to make that happen, but we'll see when that happens. There is a political cartooning culture, but it remains very small, and there's not much space even in Indian newspapers for political cartooning today. So it remains scattered on Instagram and other social media spaces. The universities are now incorporating comics, also Indian comics, as part of their teaching within their curriculum, even in English departments. So they're looking at comics as literature and taking graphic novels as a serious form of literature. So that change has happened over the last 10 years. And now even currently where I teach, there is a proposal to start a master's program in Indian comics and graphic literature, which I made the curriculum for, but we don't know. We'll see. It's not yet announced, but the interest has been there, and probably it'll be announced very soon officially. So these are just a few general points that I had noted. Just to give you a short history of Indie Comics Fest. Again, it was something that we started because, I visited Comiket and Comitia, particularly Comitia, which was the festival of original doujinshi in Tokyo, which I visited, and that gave me an idea to do something similar in India. And we kind of put together, a bunch of us came together and in 2017 and started Indie Comics Fest, which now it has kind of established itself as the space for independent Indian comics. This is one more picture from one of those events. And now, now even the art galleries are taking some interest. So I have been approached by the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art in Delhi to do a little exhibition on Indian comics, and there's some talk that is on. So that might happen this year. And so it is a way for me to try and tell one kind of a story of what I think Indian comics are. So it's an opportunity, it's a curatorial opportunity. Though as a non-academic, as a practicing artist, it is probably a kind of an intervention, which I'm looking forward to. Well, that's about it. This is the last slide. And if there are any questions, yes.
Yes.
So thank you very much
Thank you so much
for your patience and for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we still have some 4 minutes. So if you have any question, then you can put your question either in chat or you can turn on the mic and you can speak if you have any question.
Yeah, hi. Am I audible? Bharat, I had one question about your documentary, The Fragile Heart of Moai. What led to the creation of that thing?
That was something that was a project that came about when I was living in Calcutta, and I was making documentaries then. I also studied film, which I did not mention, but yes, I was making documentaries at the time, and I was interested in comics. But so NHK, the Japan Broadcasting Corporation, was interested in my ideas about doing something about Japanese comics, but I was not sure what. I had already made one short documentary for them, so they were familiar with my work, and so they gave me this opportunity to do a feature-length documentary as part of a series called Tokyo Modern, which was a series where foreign directors come to Japan and see Japan through foreign eyes. And that was a common linking theme. And so I chose Japanese comics, but I had no clue. In fact, I had known nothing about the doujinshi scene at that time. But it was a learning experience. And so we focused on specifically women doujinshi artists, though we filmed a lot of male artists as well. And in fact, another film could be made with that footage. So that's how it came about. And it was shown on Japanese television. And so I have shown it in India as well. So even at Indie Comics Fest, we had some screenings of the film. And that also has kind of encouraged people to start making their own comics. So it has played a kind of a small role in inspiring people to start doing their own comics. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. My question was, since the new version of the Ramayana anime by Yugo Sako is releasing, do you like the new voice dub of it, the Hindi version? Because I'm really not satisfied with it, unfortunately.
No.
It feels
Yes,
very
yes. This has
unnatural.
been a controversy. Yeah. And a lot of fans are not liking, and me included, I'm not happy with the new dub. And we can discuss more about this later, but certainly I wish that that kept the original dub, because that was very much the original voice acting. That is, it's not a dub, but it's the original voice acting of the Hindi voices of the film, because that was very much part of the feel of the movie as a whole. And yeah, that has certainly that decision, I don't know why they took the decision. Probably it was because they had lost the masters, and I think that's what the producer, the distributor, told me. I had met him once, and so he said that the master was not, they were not able to get a good master of the sound of the voices of that film, of the original, and so they were forced to kind of record the voices. But one could have, still used the original voice, even if it was a little scratchy in places. It still had the feeling. I mean, it was still connected. So this is something that Indians are now realizing, how much voice acting links up the reality of animation, as in produces the reality of animation. So people have recognized the importance of voice acting, I would say that.
Perfect.
I'm not
Perfect.
happy with it. Yeah. I'm not happy with the new version.
Same here. Same.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. And we have in chat Mr. Daniel as well as Ryutaro Mihara. They want to make contact with you. So later, please do something for that.
Sure.
And now it's time to Mr. Ryan Holmberg. So thank you so much for nice presentation. You do from those. Okay, okay. Mr. Ryan Holmberg is a very well-known comic, uh, how to say, critic. So, yes, today is a rare occasion for him to speak on Indian comics, I believe. So, please, uh, yes, start. Thank you.
Good. Oh, sorry, it's not on. Sorry, audio is not on. Mic kasté.
Oh, yeah, it's off this side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ryan Holmberg. I'm actually sitting across the table from Toru Tak, our host. So if I'm looking in different directions, it's because the action is across the table from me. We're studying. Oh, we're dealing with some audio issues on this side, sorry.
There's an echo coming actually of your
Yeah,
voice.
I think it's because we're sitting right
everyone
next
goes
to
like
each
that.
other. How about now?
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah.
Is it better?
Yes. Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Let me think about this. So, 難しいね、これ。高橋さんなんか音声全部切れる。自分の。スピーカーだけ消せる。自分の。そうです。OK。まだエコーあるけど。Sorry, y'all. Hello? How about now? Speaker 消せないの？こっちからです。Yeah. Sorry. あ、そっかそっか。So we're dealing with some echo here because we're in the same room. So I'm going to put some headphones in to block out the other sound. Of course, my headphones are $1 ones from the airplane, so they're not going to help whatsoever.
No worries, no worries.
All right. No, it's not helping at all. All right, I'm just going to wing it. For me, talking about Indian comics is a walk down memory lane. I lived for 2 years in India, once in 2013 and once in 2015. I haven't had much of a connection with India after that, for various reasons. The only really contact I've had with India since then is through Bharath and work on Vérité, which I'll talk about a little bit later. When I was living in India, I was living mainly in Mumbai, in Bombay, and I was writing art criticism for places like Art in America and Art Forum. And I was also writing a lot about Indian comics. Let's see. So I was writing a lot about Indian comics for TCJ, the Comics Journal. Comics Journal is a famous magazine in the United States about comics. In past years, recent years, they've switched mostly online, even though recently they've revived their print content. But I was writing about different types of Indian comics. You can find a lot of the links to the essays. There's probably about a half dozen or a dozen of them on the Comics Journal. One of the first interviews I did actually was with Bharath. And I'm seeing here, okay, we've solved the issue. One of the first ones I did was with Bharath, the first interview I did. At the time when I lived in India, I knew nothing about India. I knew nothing about Indian comics. So I thought the best way to start was by actually interviewing Indian creators. Primarily, I'm a translator and historian and writer about Japanese comics, but I was living in India. So I decided to write a bit about the comics that I saw and around me. So one of the first interviews I did was with Bharath about Comics India. Bharath can say more, but Comics India was a project that he was doing. I think it went for about 4 to 6 issues. I can't remember. But I interviewed him about that. I was really interested in, at the time, I do remember being surprised when getting to India in 2013 about the really low profile of comics overall in India. And also about the low profile of manga. I remember in Bombay bookstores that the only 2 manga that you saw regularly was one, the manga that Bharath mentioned, Tezuka's Buddha, and then the other one was Akira. You would see Otomo Katsuhira's Akira quite around. And even more, I remember seeing those even more than any kind of popular shonen manga, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon. So I thought I'd reach out, try to dig out different types of independent and young creators who were working in comics. So Bharath was one of the first people I contacted. An artist that was, at the time, I thought was the most interesting and seemed to be doing the most robust work in terms of length and complexity of issues and artwork, as was Vishwajyoti Ghosh. He's part of something known as, was at the time at least, something known as the POW Collective. They did 1 volume, an anthology of work. I still think they have get-togethers. Once again, I'll say my knowledge about India and Indian comics is quite dated since I haven't been there since 2015. But I really thought Vishwajyoti's work was interesting. He dealt with the emergency back in the 1970s in India, primarily set in Delhi. Did a really interesting graphic novel around that. And what else? I was also doing interviews with, once again, smaller artists. For the most part, I was writing about art shows and different types of gallery and museum shows in India. There was something called the Dharavi Biennial, which is in one of the largest, I mean, what's the politically correct word to use now? Not slum, but, you know, what is the right politically correct term now? I can't remember. But, you know, if you know what Dharavi is, you know what Dharavi is. But there was a large art exhibition there, and someone named Chaitanya Modak was doing exhibition, did a project working with kids who were living there, making short comics about their experiences there. So, you know, I interviewed people like that. I was also got to be interested in kind of local comics culture and kind of the history of comics culture, particularly in Mumbai, where I was living. Prior to this, I was living in Japan. I had a 2-year fellowship at Gakushuin University in Tokyo. And the main thing that I was researching at the time was kashihon manga, rental book manga. So I was interested to learn that in other nations too, in other countries too, there was a history of comics for rent, not comics for purchase, but comics for rent. Of course, in Japan, the culture was quite different and quite more dynamic, and there's a lot of publishers that existed primarily for rental libraries back in the 50s and early 60s. But in Mumbai too, I was surprised to find that a lot of books and magazines that had been published for the retail market were also being lent out for, you know, working class and poor individuals through rental libraries called circulating libraries in Mumbai. So I was really interested in the kind of objects you would find there, you know, Richie Rich comics, American comics, British comics that had been read over and over and over again over the years and then been fortified with cardboard and different types of vinyl. I thought these were kind of interesting objects in themselves. This is one in Mahim in Mumbai. I don't think it's there anymore, called Victoria Music House and Library. This is what the inside looked like. Those are all comics that you're seeing in the foreground, just piled up on top of one another. This is the Rita Circulating Library that used to be, I don't know if it's still there in Mumbai, right? So these little tiny, literally hole-in-the-wall shops that were still circulating comics that were quite old. And when I say quite old, sometimes that only means the 1990s. I thought one really interesting thing about comics culture in India is that the 90s seemed like a long time ago. In the 90s, because of the lack of preservation efforts, because of high humidity in India, just paper disappears, is thrown away and dissolves. And maybe Bharath can speak to this, but I do remember that at the time there was a project in Calcutta preserving newspaper strips from the 1990s, that even the 1990s was seen as distant history. And it was a real effort to try to find old newspaper strips in the 1990s to preserve. So even these objects that I was able to find and collect we're really not that old as far as I am concerned. You know, when I write about manga, I'm talking about the 1930s up to the 1970s. But it's easier to find a manga from the 1930s than it is an Indian comic from the 1980s sometimes, in the early 1990s, which is, I thought was an interesting contradiction. Let's see. I was also writing about, tried to incorporate Indian comics into discussion about art. For the most part, I wrote for Comics Journal Online, and I wrote art reviews for different magazines in the United States. I believe only the one essay that I wrote for an Indian magazine was for a magazine called Caravan. I lived in Goa, in Panjim, for 3 months, and I was really interested in artists that were dealing not with Goa as, you know, the beach utopia, or with kind of distant Portuguese, Indo-Portuguese history, but rather with the environmental devastation of Goa due to both industrial development but also tourism development, which I can only assume has gotten much more intense since then. And of course, one of the most famous Indian cartoonists who lived as a professional primarily in Mumbai, but is from Goa, is Mario Miranda. So most of the comics that are known of his are about kind of middle-class life in Mumbai. But I was able to dig out some of his cartoons dealing with devastations of Goa in a magazine. What was this magazine called? Let's see. It's here somewhere. Can't remember now. So it's a well-known monthly magazine in Goa. So I wrote about that and tried to combine Indian comics with contemporary art in different ways. Let's see. What else do I got here? Like I said, I've known Bharath for a long time. I've known Bharath at least since 2013, when I interviewed him. We hung out a lot in India. I wrote about his work. And then the idea of Vérité came up a number of years ago. And the way I think it developed was initially Bharath had approached me alongside with Asakawa Mitsuhiro, who's a former editor at Garo and Axe, and now former Serindo and Serin Kogeisha editor, is now lives freelance as an agent and doing different things. But at the beginning of Vérité, I really didn't have time to help Bharath, so Asakawa led up the first two issues. I think my only contributions to the first two issues were reprints of essays I had written. Trying to recall now. But when it came to the third issue, I said that I would, step up and help Bharath do the Japan side of the third issue. And what was intended to be the Japan side of the third issue will end up being the Japan side of issue 4. And hopefully issue 4 will finish this year. The reason that the content was delayed is entirely my fault. I'll talk about the content of issue. Well, I'll talk about the content of issue 4 now. Issue 4, the idea is for the Japan side to focus on comics journalism. Comics journalism, as you might know, is a robust genre in America and in the West, and also is a lot of Indian comics artists, from my memory, were using the comics medium to do reportage work, to do non-fictional work about contemporary different types of social issues. In Japan, something I always thought was interesting, that comics journalism, despite its high profile in other countries, has a pretty low profile in Japan. When you find there is different types of comics journalism in Japan, but usually it tends towards very diaristic things and very comedical things about daily life, or it goes towards kind of tabloid type content. So if you walk into a convenience store in Japan, you might find different types of manga books, comic books about Yakuza, like organized crime, right? Or about ghost stories, urban myths. So comics journalism in Japan has I don't know, it's kind of like a B-level medium. It's not really highly respected. But in India, and I remember this, maybe Bharath can speak to this, when I was there, I remember that the one American cartoonist that also had a big profile at the time was Joe Sacco. I don't know what book had come out by that point. Palestine, I remember being in bookstores in India. I don't know if Footnotes in Gaza was out then. But, I believe artists like Vishwa Jyoti Ghosh and some of the other Delhi artists were really influenced by Joe Sacco. And I think probably this side and that side, the name of Vishwa Jyoti's anthology about partition, I think, Joe Sacco, maybe he wrote forward to that, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's kind of interesting to see like which artists from outside India got distributed inside India through bookstores and how they had that impact. And it was really specific. I remember you go to bookstores, there would be Buddha, Akira, Amrachitra Kata reprints. Tantan, of course, was everywhere. And then sometimes you'd see like Joe Sacco books. So kind of interesting, very limited ecology or economy of what was being circulated in India, but also, kind of interesting. The comics journalism issue. So I'm putting together a small, like 100-page, 120-page anthology of the history of comics journalism in Japan with translated material that was supposed to be in volume 3 of Vérité. It's going to be pushed back to volume 4 this year. I think the earliest entry will be from the 1920s. And then the most recent entry, which is now dated because I've been slow on this, was about the coronavirus. But to fill the gap, because we needed to get the book out and Bharath had already assembled the Indian content, what we decided to do was to do a reprint of a book I had done in English, which was Hirata Hiroshi's Chidaruma Kempo, Bloody Stump Samurai. And as Bharath hinted, this book has an interesting history in India because a Japanese artist named Yamamatsu Yukichi, he had traveled to India, I think about 2006, 2007, with the idea of introducing manga or comics at large to Indian audience, because he had gone to India previously and was very surprised that comics had a very low or almost no profile, despite the fact that India was clearly obsessed with popular culture through movies. And also he assumed, not incorrectly, for many, some audiences had a very low literacy rate. So therefore introduced a visual medium and try to catch that market. So I think he overthought his target. And what he decided to translate was Chidaruma Kempo, Bloody Stamps Samurai. So that came out in a Hindi edition that he organized. Didn't sell well at all in India. And the whole kind of failure of that project is the topic of this book, which came out from Blaft Publications in India as Stupid Guy Goes to India. So I thought it'd be appropriate because there's that back history. The reason that it was introduced into India also is not just because samurai and swordsmanship are recognizable, stereotypical Japanese culture, but the hero or the anti-hero in Bloody Stump Samurai is Burakumin. He's an outcast. So there's an idea that Indian audiences would be able to identify that due to histories of outcasts and Dalit in India as well. So I thought it'd be interesting to reintroduce the English edition, in a new edition when we did Vérité 3. So Vérité 3 has let me see if I have the files here, has a bilingual Japanese and, English and, whoops. Why is it not moving? Oh, that's why. Bilingual Hindi and English translation of Bloody Stump Samurai. And Bharath can say if there's actually any feedback or not from the version that came out through Vérité. So there was that. And maybe one more thing I'll kind of point at before closing up and opening up for questions is that I personally don't really have much connection to Indian comics anymore, though recently, for various reasons, I've thought about collecting all the interviews and essays I had written about Indian comics 7 years ago, almost 10 years, over 10 years ago now, 10 years ago now, as a book. I think maybe it captures an interesting historical moment, right when interactions between manga and Indian comics were starting to grow. So I might do that. But a collaborator of mine, a publisher in Richmond, Virginia, United States, named Brian Baines, he runs a small publisher called Bubbles. Bubbles is well known as a zine publisher, but he recently went to India. I believe he met Bharath at one of the indie comics, indie fests. But he has also become interested in Indian comics. So recently he published a Indian comic, an artist who's based in Bangalore, perhaps, Anand. And, Indian comics, for the most part, I found them interesting as a phenomenon. There's only a few comics that I felt like I was really impressed by. Most of the stuff that I was interested in was interesting mainly for its curiosity and quirky value, like Weird Diamond Comics adaptations of Conan the Barbarian fighting aliens and other types of weird things. But Anand Zoo, which I believe was initially published as a zine, is really a fantastic comic. And there's been interest even amongst other American publishers recently, like Fantagraphics, about introducing more Indian comics into the American market. So I think we're about to see a change in the profile of American comics, probably not in Japan for a while, but at least in the United States. And I just want to kind of close before I open up the questions with a very sad and tearful story about also part of the reason that I decided to stop writing about Indian comics is that I had my entire Indian comics collection in Tokyo when I was teaching at Tokyo University from 2017 to 2019. It's probably about 4 boxes worth of comics that I had largely dug out, excavated from the depths of bookstores in Mumbai, around Fountain and different circulating libraries. Really interesting stuff, really rare stuff, really one-of-a-kind things in the sense that they had been, repackaged for circulation. So really unique items. But I very stupidly sent everything by boat back to the United States when I moved from Tokyo, and all 4 boxes of my Indian comics vanished somewhere along the way. And so I now have 0 Indian comics. So they're either somewhere laying at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, like many Japanese and American battleships, or probably some person on the American side, because it's American Postal Service, like most social services in the United States, are an entire disaster. Were probably thrown and ripped up and then stolen. And so if you ever see any Indian comics on eBay, please alert me so I can buy my comics collection back. But
That is really
that was my
unfortunate.
presentation. And if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to do what I can to answer them.
So what led you to,
Thank you very much. So please go ahead if you have any question.
Oh, yes. Hi. Okay. My question was, how did you get into the world of Gekiga, and how did you become a translator of Japanese comics?
No question?
So far, no.
Okay.
So that Anand Zoo is being published in the US today?
Yeah, it got published in the US.
Okay, I didn't know. I found it in the Leeds Midland bookstore.
Where? Oh, really? The book?
Yes. So,
Well, it's probably because Brian went over to India and he brought some copies with him.
okay, I know.
So what everything that Bubbles is doing is interesting. I think it's like a good model to develop, at least from my end, is that I think Anand, him and Anand are close now. They're going to print copies of Bubbles, the zine, inside India
Okay,
for Indian costs.
I see.
And I think Bharath and I have talked about this at some point about maybe doing collaborations on comics where, we print maybe some copies in the United States and then some copies in India. Because the biggest issue, of course, is transportation and shipping. So especially from the United States over, or vice versa, the shipping costs are more expensive than the book costs.
Yes.
So I think it's like a good model to maybe develop.
I see.
And perhaps one solution to getting more, the Indian publishing industry does this with fiction. They do Indian editions. But I think maybe
Yes.
for smaller publishers, it might be a good tactic also for comics
Yes.
to do collaborations with, say, American publishers
Yes.
and do same book, just print them in India versus print them in the United States
I see.
to serve the market. I mean, I don't know if Japanese companies would think about doing that, because Japanese companies don't. It would have to be the same book, same content, just printed on paper in different countries.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody who has question?
Yeah, I had a
Please
question.
go ahead.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Arigato. My question was, did you come across Gotham comics in
okay,
India?
Then thank you very much, Mr. Holmberg. So, we will have anyway 30 minutes, 1 hour Q&A session and discussion time after next speaker's presentation. So if you have question, you
Yeah.
can ask them.
I think
So now,
hello. Yeah, I think Abu had a couple of
turn
questions, but
to
somehow he's not
Mr.
audible.
Miss Aparna Chaurasia. So can you speak now? She's an Indian graphic novel author based in Delhi and a creator of Soul Contract. And now she will speak.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. First of all, okay.
I'm not hearing you. So.
Am I audible?
Okay.
Am I audible now?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay. So first of all, arigato gozaimasu for inviting me here. Because as the youngest, I think I don't have that much experience in publishing house and that much. But like you said, I will be speaking on how manga and everything, manga and anime is like received in India from the young generation. So I will be sharing my screen now. Okay, so let's do this one.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. So I think, is it visual?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know. Half of it is cut.
Is it visual? I mean,
probably it's okay. It's my side problem.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, Toru-san has invited me to speak on my journey as a graphic novelist and also to explain how manga culture and anime is received in India. So I will be speaking from the point of a young generation and how new creators and new manga artists, or we can say new comic artists, are emerging from Indian big population. So it is me. First, I will do a little introduction about myself because it's my first time speaking as artist. Because before my soul contract, there was not any book that I have published. I was a freelance artist, and so right now I am a writer, illustrator, and also a comic book artist of Soul Contract. It is my series that I am going to start, and its first chapter has been released. In Soul Contract, it's a like it is like a Indian. It's a mix of culture. You can see, like, I am very inspired from manga. I'm very inspired from the art style of manga and their character design, but as well I'm also inspired from Chinese stories and their art style as well, like how they use the brush strokes and everything. So the Soul Contract is a new Indian comic book that beautifully blends Indian cultural aesthetics, the cultural aesthetics and the things that Indian do. So I'm trying to blend all these three into a one book, and this is what my Soul Contract is. And as a writer, I'm very passionate the about diving deep into the dilemmas of human, like, the realistic way of human psychology and everything. So so this is about my work. And with my work, I want to create that fusion, and I want to create something that the Indian audience and the emerging audience that we have will like. So that's that. And these are some of my work, like my illustration work. And like how Bharath sir has said that the same idol have different different art style. I have did this work in my in the last year, in when the Ayodhya temple was established or remake. So this is also an interpretation from my side of Lord Ram and Lord Lakshman and Devi Sita, and it has received a lot of love on my Instagram page. It is a small story, interpretation that I did of Lord Ram. So these are my works. And as you can see, my work is highly inspired from Japanese manga style. And first, I will speak about how manga and anime culture is like received in India, and how new people and how it is done everything here. And I'm not that much experience in the that outer world. I'm more like hikikomori, like the one certain type. So I have more knowledge on how these things and this culture is like expanding on the internet, and so I will be speaking on that. First, these are the anime crafts and communities. As you can say, Japan has given us manga and anime. So it is a very big thing. The newer audience or the young audience of India are really in love with anime and manga. Like in India, there is 1.4 billion population, and we have 29 states, and each state have their own community for for talking about anime and talking about manga. In younger generation, and the community involved from teenagers to adult, and we have the community like every state there is a community for the like otakus and beeves for anime and manga. And from there, like these are all the like symbols, you can say, like logos of the community, like Delhi Anime Club, Mumbai Anime Club, and UP Anime Club. I was a part of UP Anime Club and MP. So you can see that in these communities, people talk about anime and manga, and we talk and then we create and then we help each other like for advertisement and everything. And as well as there are a lot of influencers like Anime TM Talks and many more who talk only about Japanese manga, not on just manga and that, but also about the culture, like how things are going. As well as they also teach about how to speak Japanese. Like as you can see, just because of our love for manga, we people are learning more about Japan, their culture, their language, everything. So this is what anime has done to us in India. Because and also this is not just about teenagers. Many people, I have gone to Delhi Comic Con and I have met a lot of people who are so much love for that, and they are trying to create as well. We already know that about mimesis theory, that when we see something beautiful, then we want to create as well. So I think because of this culture, there is a new kind of things are coming into India. When I was young, there was not many manga and anime available, and I was not able to stream watch. But now it is very famous on Crunchyroll and Netflix. Like you said that there was like solo leveling poster you got from Delhi Comic Con. It was very famous in India because of that. And the manga culture has a growing population among the youth, and because they have gained a significant following from the social media. And why do you think manga is famous? Because of their unique storytelling, like how they have they made the things like they have a unique kind of storytelling. From my views, what I have watched, Indian stories are mostly based on the relationships and about people, whereas there are also many other genres. Maybe I am the ignorant one, but what I have seen from manga, that there is a deep level of connection. Their characters are more into building the character in a rich way. One can one can connect to their emotions to the character. So because of that, there is a big community, and and the big communities give rise to the conventions like Comic Con, and there is lot of cosplay events and online communities that had created a vibrant space for fans to connect and celebrate their love for anime and manga. And I think because of this rise in community, it is also creating a space for manga. Because because I have went to Lucknow. You After the Comic Con, I have went to Lucknow for a art exhibition, Kara Darpan, and there on a metro station on I think Hazratganj, inside a metro station there is a small like you can say a bookstore, and on that bookstore there is a separate column for manga, and they have manga like Blue Lock, Berserk, and Full Metal Alchemist, and a lot more. Like they have a full collection of manga, separate collection, as well as there are posters as well. So I think the manga is receiving very well in India nowadays. There are a lot of new like merchandise as well. Like you can see there is a lot of merchandise. People have also, there is one more thing, like the influencers on social media, like TM Talks, and they have like doing and organizing a lot of competitions for the like to create comics and other things in India, and they also organize meetups so that we can share our knowledge with other like who loves the same thing. So it is receiving very well, and even though if it is receiving very well, how it helps the comic industry in India. First of all, I think inspiration for the Indian creators. There are a lot of creators whose inspiration is manga and anime, and I am one of such artists. I was not a very big fan of like art from my early years. I was a like studious student, and I wanted to do a government job first. But after watching anime and manga from my sixth grade, I have decided that I want to do something. I want to do something to give back to this field, to this manga and anime industry. So but I was an Indian, I am an Indian, and I want to do something for both, like for manga and for India. So I have chosen this field as an artist, and creating things in manga style. And also like inspiration for Indians artists and writers are inspired by manga style storytelling and artwork, leading to the creation of a unique content branding Indian themes with manga aesthetic. Also the how it helps expanding the market, because there is a rise in the fan base, there is a big like expanding, because people want to see content in that kind of style. So there is also a rise in like demand of the original content. There is I will tell you about one, like as you can see the Ramayana from Vrand Kabi, and there are more creators who is like creating in manga style, because the people want to read that stuff. So because publishers want to make money, so they are creating their original content, like creating mythology, creating stories that have that manga style touch. So I think the fan base is responsible for the original content creators who want to create in this style. And it has also helped in boosting merchandise and spin-offs, like the popularity is very much. And the best thing, I think it helps that cross-cultural collaboration. Because of manga there is a lot of cultural collaboration. As you can see, I have met you in Delhi Comic Con, and it like it read to invite me here. So I think it is because of my love for manga I create that comic book, and I was there, and then I get a chance to stand here, like speak here with you all. So I will be telling now like how I become from reading manga to creating manga, because I have explained you like how much it is how people of India like manga, because I am one of that people. I have been reading manga from my sixth grade, and I have read a lot of mangas and watched a lot of animes, and because of my love for them I have starting creating my own. Like after my graduation, I have done BFA in animation. Like I was a fine art student, and I used to do watercolor painting. But then after graduating, I have decided to create a story that I was passionate about, the Soul Contract. So in 2024, the first chapter of Soul Contract debuted at Delhi Comic Con, and I think it is one of a big step for me, as well as for the Indian Comic Association as well, because I'm a part of Cosmics Entertainment from ICA, that is Indian Comic Association. And like I will tell you about that ICM. Like as Bharath Sara says that there is a separate space for indie comics, and ICA is also there, and I was a part of that. I'm not that much active in outside, outside world. I'm mostly busy in my work. So I want to say that because of this, because right now is a high time for Indian creators. I have a YouTube channel, and on that channel I have saw a lot of new creators, like the emerging creators. They ask me that how to create comics, how to create manga, and how to draw this. So I think there is a big rise in this field, and it will keep on going because also the government is starting to act up. At first the comic creators was hard as a job, but now government is helping as well. They have started a waves comic creator championship, and like it's a championship like silent manga audition in Japan. If you know, there is it's this kind of same. In this competition, they are encouraging amateurs and professional creators to take part and create a comic book create a comic or create a comic about like 10 pages, 10 to 15 pages in dialogues in any style. There is also a separate category for the awards, best manga awards. So I think it is very like people are starting to recognize manga as a standard. So it's a very good thing. And right now this competition is going on in India. There is more than 5,000 entries above the professional and amateur like categories they have. So yes, like it really helps a lot to Indian creators. There are very new creators in India. Now, next, I will talk about the soul contract, like my work, because I don't have much of a work to sew right now. Maybe after 5 to 10 years, I will have. So first, I will talk about soul contract, like what it really is. The soul contract is a historical Indian fiction isekai story. I have used the word isekai because, to attract the audience. We all know what isekai is, when a character dies in his world and start reincarnate in another world. So soul contract is that story. It explores the theme of soul, fate, friendship, hope, family, life, and the dark reality of a human nature. And these are the themes that are very popular among the young audience these days. The dark reality of human nature, hope, friendship, and family. So, and I'm also a big fan of such themes. Then they comes under a genre called slice of life. So in my story, the story begins with the protagonist Chirag dying in his own world, only to awaken in another world as a Zaki of a 9-year-old girl. So it's a gender bent kind of story because I want to talk about how like woman empowerment kind of stuff in this book as well. So I have tried to create that gender band, how Chirag, who has lost his master in his world, now navigate this unfamiliar world while grappling with his grief, and how he will find new hope to live, and how he will work as a Zaki, how he will fight the demons. And in this story, I have incorporated the reference from Mahabharat and other historical things. I have not created a mythology or his mythology one, but I have created, like I have took the elements from Mahabharata, from Ramayana, and other historical things, and then incorporated that in my story. That Chirag will go on, like Chirag will like find new things. Chirag will find new kind of elements, and then he will fight the monsters kind of. Also in this world, like we all know the concept of soul, that soul never dies and it only change its body, like it's change. And we all know that how body is made of 5 elements. So I have incorporated all these concepts in my story. Like it's a very because I'm a big fan of Indian history, very big fan of Indian history. So I have incorporated all those aspects or all those concepts in my story. And I want to show the pupil that a new kind of story can be created. So the story emphasizes that as long as there is even a glimmer of hope, a human can find the strength to endure and follow the light that guides his path. Because this is a story about redemption, about how we live. So I think it will receive well in like Indian market. So I really hope this is my cover page that I have drawn for the SOAR contract. Like I have, like, you can see just from looking that the art style is from Japanese manga. You can see the faces, and but you can see the aspects of Indian aesthetics as well, like how the dresses and how the things are done. I want to create here, like, you have seen in Bollywood, like Bansari's movie kind of. So I'm a big fan of decorating with flowers from Sojo manga. So that kind of vibe I want to give. And this is like the cover page that I did for chapter 1. Now I will show some visuals from Soul Contract. These are like my artworks from chapter 1 that I am showing. You can see that the screen tones and the strokes and how I have created the characters. It has the stroke of Chinese kind of style and also with Indian aesthetics. So I want to create that the fusion of all three culture in this one, and some more. Like this is from chapter 2 that is about to be released soon. I hope that people really like to read it. So because it is something that I try to incorporate all the Indian kind of concepts in it. And with the help of a wonderful anime and manga community, Soul Content received a lot of love from everyone in its debut in Dari Comic Con. So here are some like photos and glimpses of Dari Comic Con that I visited. I have met a lot of people there, and people were like very enthusiastic about getting a manga in Indian style. Like many people told me that they will support me because of this. They like the art style first of all. So I think manga style has created a kind of standard among the minds of young people, because this is what they love to read, and they also like webtoons, manhwa. So I think this is something that we as a creators should do. Of course, an artist has a freedom to create whatever they want, but I think today's younger generation in India wants to read something different from the old versions, because of course there are many famous ones as well. I'm not saying that, but they want to read something different, something that something they feel familiar with. Because I have known many person in India who like love reading manga a lot. They can read around 200 chapter in 2 days of a single manga. So I know how much crazy people are in India for reading manga, watching anime. And I think the anime culture has created this, because at first people don't used to read manga, but after watching anime, because there is only 1 or 2 seasons in anime, and like it is an incomplete story, but people want to know more about the story, so they goes from anime to a manga. So it is also a kind of like in mind of people that that anime has created this thing. So yes, I thank everyone in Dari Comic Con who like supported me, and yes, that's why. And also there is like how I said that not just me, there are also many other publishers who are like incorporating this thing. Like you can see this is Zarim manga. Actually, this is the main character Zarim Manja from, and this is a comic. This is a comic from Bullseye and Comics Adda. It has released just a few days ago in Comic Con Bangalore, and as you can see, if you see this version of like comic, it is totally in manga style, and also they have also followed the right to left reading way, like like how Japanese read from right to left, like they have followed this reading style. Whereas in my comic book, I have, for Indian creators, for Indian readers, I have tried to follow left to right. So like in India, there are so many people who wants to create manga, and I think this is going to be a new wave of comics for Indian creators in Indian comic market. So that's all, and arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much that you invited me here, and and I think I feel very happy that you have invited me here and to speak among Ryan sir and Bharath sir. It's a very, like, it's a proud moment and pleasure for me. So thank you, Toru-san. Arigato gozaimasu. And if anyone here like to share anything with me, so you can always find me on Instagram, and that's all. So yeah, that's all for. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Yes, thank you so much. And yes, if you have any question, please go ahead.
Okay.
For everybody?
For everybody.
General question.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So I have a question.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. You said some Indian artists are now writing in the right to left direction.
Yes.
Um,
Like, let me show you this one.
the
I
one
can
you were
see.
showing before.
Okay. As you can see, this one, like, this is Zare manga. Like, its name, the character name is actually Manja, but it's like, they have like changed the name to Zare manga because of the manga name. So actually, this is a new comic book just released in Bangalore Comic Con, and they have incorporated from right to left, like just how the manga is read. And I find it they have also the different styles. This is for like from left to right, and this is like in Hindi as well, and this is in English. So it's something like they are doing for Japanese audience, for Indian, and for English as well. Like this story is in all three versions, and the artist of is Deep Joy, and yes, this is English variant, and the publishers are Bursai Press as well as Comic Adda. They are from the Indian Comic Associations and also independent small publishers. So yeah, the story in this follows about a man who have to save a god child. So they have incorporated the like god energy and mechanical energy together. So it's like it's a new kind of story, I think. I have yet to read this one. So I think I have answered your answer.
Is this a common thing amongst Indian creators, doing right to left, or just this one book?
This is the first one that I have found because we try to create, from left to right, like how we read English and Hindi. So we try to do the same reading habit because of the readers, but they have incorporated this one, like the Japanese one. Maybe they have their reasons.
Yeah. Ryan, there are a few Indian, there are a few more that I saw at Indie Comics Fest, right to left. Very short zines, but right to left direction. Yeah. It's been a recent thing, like maybe last couple of years or something.
They are highly influenced from Japanese culture. I can say that.
Yeah.
So Bharath, if you teach Indian comics at a university, which direction would you teach?
Which direction do I teach? it's like some kind of trick question or something, philosophical question. But yeah,
We can't hear you. Okay, go ahead.
no, I mean, it sounds like a deep philosophical question or something. But yeah, but I mean, I keep telling them that I have to tell everybody that it's because Japanese write in that direction when they write vertically. So that's because of that tradition of writing. It's that they've developed this direction thing, and so I have to keep telling them that it's not a thing that they have to imitate directly.
Yes.
But
So-
in terms of publishing in India, it's not a good thing, right? If you want to
No,
publish with actual
no.
publishers, it's fine for zines and self-published things, but for
Yeah.
an actual publishing industry strategy.
Yeah, it's not a good thing at all. I mean, it's not going to work. But what they're trying to do is to try and pass it off as some kind of, because people are interested in manga, they want to pass it off as some kind of manga.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, it's a kind of like creating like a cheap version of a Japanese car. Like
If I'm
something
not
like-
mistaken, some Indian languages read from right to left. Is that incorrect?
that's Urdu. Urdu reads from right to left. So if one were to make a comic book in Urdu, which in fact, I had toyed with that idea of starting an Urdu comics magazine as a kind of a zine thing, which is only for Urdu readers. But there are quite a few. There are millions of, in fact, Urdu readers, even in the South in Bangalore. And that's right to left because it's, of course, based on Arabic and it's based on that, and eventually based on Persian. So the right to left direction. So one can do a right to left thing with Urdu. That would be interesting. Nobody has done that so far.
Thank you.
I can ask a doubt.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Arigato. Thank you. My question to Ryan was, what made you translate obscure manga and what got you into Gekiga manga in the first place? Was it the weirdness of it or like just how underground it was? It kind of reminds me of the underground comics movement from America.
This doesn't have anything to do directly with Indian comics, but I was interested in contemporary art. So initially I was interested in the work from artists from Garo, particularly those artists that were doing more avant-garde things like Sasaki Maki and Hayashi Seiichi, because it was closer to the history of, pop art and avant-garde arts outside of comics. It did not come out of an interest in American underground comics. And then from there, the world of weird Gekiga is a little bit different from the world of Garo. But right when I was getting into manga seriously as a researcher in the late 1990s, there was kind of this movement to excavate and uncover weird Gekiga, as you call them, from weird small magazines, but also big magazines that have been lost. There's a book in Japanese called Manga Zombie by someone named Udogawa Takeo, which is going to be translated in English soon. And that came out right around the same time as time I got into comics. When one talks about Japanese art history in the 1990s, a lot of focus is made on artists like Murakami Takashi and Superflat. But I think in terms of how comics history is understood, at least historically, Udogawa Takeo's Manga Zombie was also a big hit. So recently, some of the translation projects I've been doing have been greatly inspired by his worlds. I mean, it's not just an interest in obscure things, though that does also match my tastes, but also just as a freelance translator and agent, the things that I have access to to license are things that fall below the radar of big publishers, because big publishers, they have a monopoly on many of their artists. So it's also a function of not just the things I'm interested in, but the things that I can access.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, any other question or comment? Now, I think, thank you very much, Ms. Aparna Chaurasia. And now we are in general Q&A session. So anyone can ask to anybody, any speaker. So please go ahead if you have any question or comment.
There's a question in chat right now that I can answer.
Okay.
There's is it possible to find copies of Vérité in Japan? Whenever I come to Japan, which is a little bit less now, it's the first time I'm here in 2 years, I try to bring books from at least small independent publishers that I work with and stock them at Kakoshe in Nakano. And this time I put some Bubbles books there. I didn't bring any copies of Vérité because I don't have any copies. But I did donate volume 2 and 3 of Vérité to the Diet Library. So the Kokai Toshokan Diet Library now has Vérité 1 through 3. So they're probably not processed yet because this is just last week, but you can read at least all 3 copies there. And hopefully on my next trip to Japan, I'll bring copies of Vérité. One problem that Bharath and I have had is that international shipping costs have skyrocketed since COVID, which really makes distributing Vérité outside of India very difficult. I think, copies of Volume 1 and Volume 2, he sent me a giant box of each, but due to shipping costs, only a few copies of Vérité 3 made their way to the United States. So we're gonna have to find some way to get around that in the future because I do know that there's a demand outside of India.
The shop, All the Old Poisons. Ryan, are you aware of the bookshop, All the Old Poisons?
Yes.
Yeah. So they wanted to keep some copies. I just got an email yesterday. They want some copies in the States. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I've got a question for both Ryan and Bharath, and I think Bharath briefly answered my question also about the role that webcomics could, webcomic apps like Toon Sutra and all could play in doing comic readership. And you had mentioned ideally having like a link to a physical comic as well. So there is this one fellow, I forgot the artist name. Buddham is the name of the title, the comic title, and it's like this set in. I think some village in Kerala, and it's like a sort of Cartoon Network-esque comic with supernatural elements and all that. And he recently sold the webcomic rights to Toon Sutra, and they're hosting that comic over there. So, and he's also got like like physical versions and all that as well. So I'm wondering, do you mean something like that as well, or because the way I was thinking was like a lot of because one of the huge reasons even comics today have a hard time growing readership is because of like the costs of color comics and everything, and web comics are freely available, and even the ones that you can like the ones that are currently available have the paid versions online are still relatively cheap. So I'm wondering what can be done about that, if there's a potential over there as well.
Well, in India, nobody is used to paying for online content. that is a huge problem, and the business model has not yet because there's a big back end to online, like app based comics, and maintaining the back end is expensive, and so there's not yet been, I mean, only if you put thousands and thousands of works or at least hundreds of works online can you kind of make that cut. Whereas a print business is much easier and also established, and that's why I said that there should be it should be essentially print based and preferably black and white, and you could have colored versions of online, but making the app based comics work in India, so far there's not been a success. it's not been a success. It's there, like, but they just sinking money in it. That's.
So I think I could answer that question from Toru-san. Can you read this for me, like the name?
Yes, yes. This is from Mr. Oh, I mean, this is from Mr. Tsutomu Iwai. Yes, he's saying Soul Contact has a very interesting premise, and it falls into the genre that is currently the most popular in Japan. In the premise, Zaki is described as loss of his beloved master. Did Zaki belong to the slave class of the caste system in life? Zaki accepted that he was a lower class citizen in life. So is Zaki's story a story of her or him finding her or his identity as a free citizen after reincarnation? Yes,
Okay.
this is his comment. Yes.
Yes, yes. So thank you for reading the name as well as the question. So my answer to that question is actually this is about Soul Contract is about a story of reincarnation, and Zaki is the second character. She's a girl of 9-year-old who lives in a laterite area. So there is a lot of thing going on in his world, in her world, and actually the main character is Chirag, who lost his life, and because he there is a like something that his master died and he can't take the trauma, so he like killed himself, and then as we know that souls never die and it only change body. So I have taken that concept, and so Chirag's soul goes into the Zaki's soul, and goes into the Zaki's soul, and this is how it is. Like Chirag's soul goes into a body of 9-year-old Zaki, who lives in a laterite area, and like how she will like face the society and as a girl there. And there is also like a lot of things going on in her life that in that world how only the warriors going on and how things goes. So I think uh, Zaki is a character who have that minority class kind of, like she does not have the privilege of the higher society, and as a Chirag in her body, she will fight the world and prove herself. And also it's like Chirag finding his identity as a Zaki. So I think this is a kind of redemption story, like how Chirag will redeem his life and how he will move forward. So I think that will answer. Okay, arigato.
Thank you. So, can you, Iwai-san, would you comment any further? Iwai-san.
Voice.
Komali
using turn for.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, he's saying thank you very much. Yes.
Actually, I could not read Japanese, even though I can understand a little bit. So I can
Yeah.
read English, that fine.
Okay. He wrote in Japanese that he translated his Japanese question into English one through Google Translation. So, but I think his question was correctly translated. Yes. So, yes. If there is any other comment, is it the caste system you are talking about in Soul Contract? Or
It's not actually a caste system. I have not focused on that area like caste system, but I have focused on the difference between the man and woman, and how only like female have to like fight for that kind, like woman empowerment kind of story.
I
and
see.
and like everyone like once in a while every girl must have thought that maybe she was a boy and she wants to like enjoy those privilege kind of. So So yeah, it has that has concept in it.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes, please. Yes.
So I have a question for both Bharath and Aparna.
Yes.
And I think this question will also be of interest to Japanese audiences. Is comics a career in India? Is it at all economically sustainable career?
Simple answer is no.
Yes, I was saying the same.
Which is why I keep trying to insist that we need to create the magazine ecosystem, because that is the only form that can give some kind of that can create careers in comics. So there have to be monthly magazines in different languages, but that is as of now it's non-existent. So but so people do have, like, for instance, those who work in Tinkle magazine, which is a children's magazine, they do have a career. I mean, they have in fact, they are employees of the company, and they get a salary, and and many of them are in Bombay, so they get paid a decent wage to be living in an expensive city. So there is that way. So that is exactly, that's sustained by the magazine economy. So one has to create more magazines. To me, that's the only way. I don't see any other solution to this.
How about self-publishing?
How hard is self-publishing?
I mean, is it possible to make good money self-publishing comics in India?
It is possible if we have many titles. Like, certainly, there is the question of the biggest chunk of money that goes is in paying artists, the per page rate, and I mean, mostly that's larger than the printing cost itself, but that's why the black and white magazine, and you can have a reasonable per page rate for a black and white magazine, and so they can do more pages, and you have enough material, so that kind of balances it out, and then you have a business. That's even that. I mean, the same would apply for independent publishing as well. To keep it black and that's why black and white, I see that as an economic necessity, not just as some aesthetic decision.
In your view, how many copies of a magazine would you have to sell for it to be economically sustainable in India?
I think to start with, a 10,000 copy monthly print run.
How much per copy?
How much the price per copy? I think it has to be kept at about 200, not more than 200 or 250 Indian rupees, which I don't know what it translates to, but 200 to 250 Indian rupees, which is the cost of, say, a meal and a little bit more. So if you have a magazine at that kind of price level, in black and white with maybe color advertising content, B5 size, because B5 size in fact used in most Indian magazines, traditional Indian magazines, text-based magazines. So the size is known, and it's the same size as a manga magazine. And there are actually hundreds and hundreds of Indian magazines that are monthly magazines that are in different languages, like literally hundreds and hundreds registered, but we don't have a single comics magazine in that format. So, and they're all black and white magazines. And so the infrastructure for printing monthly magazines is very much present. And I've done some research on this with printers, magazine printers. They have to be printed in a web offset press and not the sheet fed offset. So there's a different machine, and so that ecosystem exists. The distribution system also exists, except that we have to we have to create the way to get the content and match the payment for artists with the number of copies that are sold. So I think 10,000 is a minimum to start with, is what I would say.
So I want to ask two more quick questions. I'm asking these just because, without the market, without an economic base, it's hard to make anything into sustainable practice. And especially because there's Japanese listeners, and I think Japanese listeners have a basic idea of how many copies manga sell. So I guess my next question is distribution. If you made a comics magazine, how do you distribute a comics magazine in India?
You go through the traditional distribution system. They use the same distributors as Tinkle. For instance, Tinkle magazine is available at my local grocery store. So I just have to, it's just 5 minutes away and I get the latest Tinkle. You buy groceries and you can pick up the latest Tinkle. It's right in front of the door. So you can, it's along with other magazines in different languages. So there are, say, Kannada, Malayalam, Tamil, Hindi, and English. So there are 5 languages I saw at the grocery store, magazines in these languages. And along with them, there was one comics magazine, which is Tinkle. And so you just use the existing distribution network for English magazines. Most likely the magazine will be in English. And so it's the model, the business model exists, and it's possible to succeed, but nobody has tried it. So nobody wants to take the first. I mean, people are reluctant to take the first step on this.
You've been talking about this for a while, maybe doing
something
like that.
Yeah. So I've actually tried to start something, try to collaborate with a few people. I mean, just to talk it out, because right now even Warner, DC Warner, the Warner Entertainment company, India, they of course they own DC Comics, and they reached out to me once asking, what do you think about publishing? Because they are interested in publishing some new Indian content. At least they're kind of seeing the feasibility of it. I told them, you got to do it this way. That's the magazine way. That's the only way it would succeed. And yeah, so we had one meeting. So there is an interest. Certainly, they're trying to gauge what might work. And
do you think the movie Monkey Man has any influence on this?
Sorry?
The new movie Monkey Man from Dev Patel. Do you think it has any influence on American publishers' interest in Indian content?
Monkey Man, it was a blip on the radar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nobody cared for that film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It just came and disappeared. Yeah.
Bharat, what do you think of Commizens by Arijit Sen, the quarterly magazine every 3 months, Commizens that I worked for?
Yeah, Comic Sense. So the model they use is the library distribution, the school library and the educational distribution system. So it's almost like they have got a ready market, a fixed market, and they already publish. In fact, I think it's a trust that publishes a children's magazine called
Ektara.
Ektara, Cycle, and I think Pluto also.
Yes.
So the same people are doing Comic Sense, and so these books, I'm still trying to figure out what the print run of Comic Sense is, but nobody has been able to tell me what the print run is. But it's a limited print run, and it goes to the library network in India. So most of the bulk of the copies are sent to libraries, so they subscribe.
I only worked in one issue, and after that, as you said, comic, the job market is not very feasible. That's like my only work that I've done in issue number 10 for Madmen of Asaro. So I'm looking forward to working for Verite as you asked me about new ideas and stuff.
Sure, sure, sure.
I'm thinking of joining you. Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, I've got one question as well. Someone mentioned there's like a slight interest, might be like a slight interest of Indian content from foreign publishers and all that. Do you think there's some sort of potential where, like how the similarly to how manga is getting more and more popular in India, is there potential for Indian content to also have like some sort of reader base in a Japanese market, given some of the common cultural elements and all that, like how someone had mentioned the bloody stump samurai's caste issues and all that sort of stuff, right? Even things that at first would seem very different, two cultures would seem very different. There are some common points that you could actually make content on that would translate abroad as well.
I don't. Someone else, maybe it's in chat, can speak to this, but I don't know how many Indian comics have actually been translated into Japanese.
I don't think any was. So I'm thinking I will try. Yes.
I mean, there's so much content to pull from Japanese manga. There's endless pages and endless variety in Japanese manga, and so much of high quality to translate. This is not to be, a negative comment on the Indian comic scene, but I just think the pool of available content to import is so much more limited. And I can see maybe 1 or 2 or 3 graphic novels being imported. I can even see Bharath's Vanished Path having a very limited market in Japan, for example. But on like an industrial scale, as like a commercial endeavor, it's a little bit harder to imagine, for me at least, a little I know about what exists in Indian comics.
There is a question to Bharath from Juliet Romero on chat. So can you answer?
Okay. On chat.
Yeah. It's long, so.
What do you think is the place of comics in India now in the university? Okay. So Jadavpur University in Calcutta, their English department was the first to introduce the study of comics and the graphic novel as part of their literature course, English literature course. So they had so they had things like Mouse and Sandman and Alan Moore and those kind of works, and Persepolis and things like that. But that was an elective or a short module within the larger English literature course. Now, in design schools, because since 2016, there's been an explosion of design of universities in India, private universities in India in the first place, and within that, design schools. So there a lot of new design schools have opened up, and one sees a lot of students doing comics in the classroom, and so that has led to some thought about introducing comics as a course. And right now in the university that I teach at, which is Shishti Manipal Institute, which is part of the Manipal Academy of Higher Education in Bangalore. they are interested in starting a master's course. It's an MA, Master of Arts course in comics and graphic literature, which is partly research based and then partly, um, you know, based on your work, on your creative work. So there is a project that they have to do, but they also have to, there is some degree of research work as well. So it's a Master of Arts course, that 2-year masters, that is being proposed, and there is certainly interest in it. And so at the master's level, people are thinking of doing something in comics. So it's not yet officially announced, but I did make a curriculum for them. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So, yes, please go ahead. Yes.
Since there's a long conversation, can I share a photograph? Hold on. Here we go. Since we're talking about Indian, so this is from 2013. This is Bharath and and this is a Delhi. Do you remember this? Is this Delhi Comic Con?
This was not the Comic Con. This was organized. I mean, this was very anime and manga specific event. In fact, this producer on the left is from Production IG, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it's from Production IG.
And if I remember right, they had big dreams about coming into the Indian market and either collaborating with Indian animators or introducing Japanese content to the Indian market, and were grossly disappointed by their experience.
Yeah. It wasn't a great experience for anybody, but the interest remains though. And some people, some Sony executives did come to Srishti, Manipal, and they've been talking about trying to start courses where they can train animators for the Japanese anime industry. And so there is that kind of a talk going on. So the interest remains, and but nothing has really materialized out of that. Yeah, it's a funny photo.
I think this was the subject of last workshop of us, and I guess there must be some progress after that. Yes. Yes.
So
please.
Aparna says that there are there's a place for comics in the fine art BFA and animation courses. Yes. That's true. So comics have certainly entered the art space in colleges, in art schools in India. Yeah. And that was not the case when I was an art student in Baroda. Actually, I mean, nobody drew comics. Yeah.
Actually, I have done my BFA, so I have drawn comics in my second year. Like there is a special year for 2D animation and comics. So
where?
It is in Amity University.
In Amity University.
Yeah, Lucknow. Right. I have did my BFA in animation field. So in my first year, I did learning about traditional painting, like watercolor and acrylic and everything. And in my second year, I did 2D animation and comics, everything come in that. And my third and fourth year, I learned about 3D animation. So it has a separate place for comics now.
Do they teach you printing techniques? Do you experiment with printing techniques? Because I teach online at the Art Institute of Chicago, and I know the comics program at the Art Institute of Chicago has a lot of emphasis also on printing techniques. Is that the case also with comics education in India?
Actually, they have not teach about like the new versions of printing technique. They only told about like, the traditional ones like there is a print making class in which like traditional one which you like curve out that pattern and then print. So it was not about like comics. Or they only teach about like basics only. You have to study yourself. So no, not about printing.
Ryan, printing techniques, by printing techniques, you mean using the Riso machine and stuff, or?
Yeah, a lot of my students, there's some of them who make comics in the traditional,
Screen
rectangular format, and they're obviously trying to become professional cartoonists. But I do get a sense that a lot of them, that comics has now become, one doesn't just study comics for the sake of making comics. One studies comics as a language of design, as an informational language. So in that, it's also, some of the students are kind of more in the printmaking world. So risograph, I mean, all sorts of things, like different, not just the actual printing techniques, but also the bookmaking techniques. It's kind of like some of the products are obviously very boutique, obviously very student project oriented. But I think, if you go to a indie comics festival in the United States, something that's very different than an indie comics festival in Japan is that the formats are very diverse. The printing techniques, the size of the page, the shape of the page, etc. So I wonder also if in India that there's a lot of experimentation with format and printing techniques, or if everybody is conceiving of comics, self-published comics in a format that mirrors industrially produced comics.
Yeah.
Yes, so if there is any other questions, then please go ahead.
Yeah, I've got one question to Bharath again. You had mentioned earlier that you weren't sure about what the print run is for Comic Sense and all that, but would you be aware of what Tinkle's print runs are like and how they are generally? I mean, I'm assuming you might have done research on that as well.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's about 3 lakh copies a month.
What is a lot?
300,000 copies monthly.
Okay.
Sorry. It's a weekly. It's become a weekly magazine now. So yeah, and interestingly, it became a weekly magazine at during the height of COVID. So I don't know how that worked out, but it's a weekly magazine now, and they publish about 3 lakh copies. That is 300,000 copies a month, and I think they are by far the largest, the biggest comics magazine in India in terms of numbers.
Can I make a comment here? My understanding in the Japanese market is that money is lost on the magazine side. The magazine is basically a vehicle for making books, right? And of course, Japanese manga magazines are ridiculously cheap, even on a Japanese level. And most individuals who draw for weekly magazines or even monthly magazines, all the money that they get paid by the publishers basically goes to paying their assistants for the production of the serials. And they only make their own money back when it's converted into books. And I think that manga publishers in Japan, primarily, we like you said, like we see Japanese manga as a world of magazines and built on that. But economically, I think the income comes from the making repackaging the serials as books, and then cross-franchising into toys and anime and whatnot. So, I think Tinkle, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of its content is not repackaged in the books. Is that true?
No, they do repackage, but they repackage it in kind of a digest form. and it's a smaller size than the magazine. And so there's a lot of republishing of the same content. They put it in different formats. So they sometimes take one particular character and they kind of collect stories, and sometimes it's published in hardback as well. So reprinting. So in the grocery store here, not only is there Tinkle magazine, but you have the Tinkle Digest as well alongside.
Those like Archie size comics,
Sorry.
like the Archie size ones.
Yeah. It's that kind of size. Yeah.
Well, let me write on that question, because you published a graphic novel in Aparna, you sold contracts. If you're able to say this, what's the print run on your books?
Can you repeat again? Like
What is the print run on Soul Contract, or what is the print run on Vanished Path, if you're able to say?
okay, so as for Soul Contract, it has just released in like 2 months ago, and like people are really buying it. And about publishing, they are like done by Cosmics, and I think Indian people really like want to read this kind of story. Like they want to read something that has Indian touch to it. So like they are showing interest, and I have only been to Delhi Comic Con, and I have seen that many people just see the book cover and they listen about the story. And even though it's black and white, they like showing interest because they want that kind of like Indian kind, like they want that original content in it. And so I think the rate is pretty good for new book, because in India people don't really like invest money in comic when buying books. They love to read online stuff. So I think they really like showing support to the Indian creators. And to Soul Contract, like it's a good sales still around. I can say not very good, but okay. Around like in 2 months we have 200 to 300 copies sold. So it was okay, not very good, but still people are showing interest. And I believe as it is a series, so after 2 3 chapters people might show more interest. And it is also one thing that I learned from people, from readers in Comic Con, that people like to read books which are more like one shot, like they are in volumes, not in one chapter like American magazines. So so I think after 2 3 more chapters, Soul Contract will get more recognition. So yeah.
Yeah, Aparna, I had a couple of questions about Soul Contract as well. One question was, how often do you plan on releasing new chapters? And secondly, through what platforms do you sell them? I might have missed, maybe you mentioned it before and I missed it or something. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
So to answer your question, um, Soul Contract, I like in India we don't have like more artists who work in this artist tag. So in Soul Contract, I'm also the writer, I'm also the artist, and I'm the full artist. Like from sketch to final, I finish it all in like in 3 months. So we are like planning to release Soul Contract every 3 months. And I have I like my speed in making like drawing is good. So like I can draw the whole chapter of 60 to 70 pages in 3 months. So we are like planning to release in like every 3 months, so like every chapter of around 80 pages. And about the platform, it's right now available on the website cosmics.co.in. And it's only available in India for now. Like the Bravery, you can get the Bravery only in India. And it will also like it's mostly like you will also get this book from Indian Comic Association stores in Comic Cons as well. Like I have been to Delhi Comic Con, and the book also goes to like Bangalore Delhi Comic Con, Bangalore Comic Con. So I think this answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
I also thought in India that the biggest problem was people don't buy books, despite
Yes.
the large market, and that even if they do buy books, the books are very cheap. Right, and I know there's a huge price differential kind of books produced for a mass audience for books produced for the middle and upper class. But do you all see any way to kind of overcome that problem? That just like books are not common commodities in India?
Actually, I think I can answer it a little bit because, like I said, that my soul contract is not that cheap. It's around 500 rupees, 400 to 500.
For how many
And
pages?
yeah, like for 80 pages,
How many
like
pages?
80 pages. It has black and white, 60 pages, and 10, around 7 to 8 colored pages at back. Like I had a book here. You can see this one. Like this is like, it has only 80 pages book. It's like, thin book, and it has everything in black and white, and only the characters like for back, yeah, only the character profile are in like colored pages, like only 7 to 8 pages. And this is in UV print, like so this book is around 400 rupees, and we have also this variant. This is 300. So when I personally went to Delhi Comic Con and see that people are buying the this one, like 500 rupees one more instead of that one, even though story is same. So I think it is in the mentality of people, like those who want to buy, those who really give respect to the content, and those who really think that this thing can bring the change, then they will they want to invest. So I think it's in the mentality of people. Those who really want to see the potential in that, then they can buy. So I think this can be changed if publishers are able to provide the content that Indian people want, or that quality of content. So I think this also, the advertisement also does a lot of help in social media's platforms. It's a big challenge for Indian people to change the mentality. So it has a long run.
I mean, it seems like a huge gap between selling individual copies at a Comic-Con
Mhm.
and then scaling up to the level that Bharath is talking about with a magazine to hit 10,000 people.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from a position of ignorance. Is just either do you see that you can ever hit, you feel like you can hit the 10,000 level to make it sustainable without crossing the class gap in India, and the class gap being a matter of purchasing power?
I think it will take time. It will really take a lot of time. Like I will have to release around 10 to 15 chapters. Only then people will start to notice that there is a thing called soul contract. So it will take time. As a individual artist, I think it is a lot of work, but I would like to give it a try. Yes.
Do you see the market as middle class, or do you see it as a market beyond the middle class?
It's middle class, I guess. Like it's not very cheap, because I have seen the books which are colored books, and they are around 900 to 1000 rupees. Like people are also buying those books. So yeah.
So
How
certainly, sorry. Certainly, there's a growing middle class purchasing power. That's certainly happening, and it's kind of reflected in, say, so there's a recent phenomenon of music music concerts becoming
Yeah.
really huge and popular in India for Indian musicians. This wasn't the case earlier, and ticket prices are typically like 3,000 rupees upwards, and there are thousands of people attending these concerts. They're like really packed, and that is definitely happening. So certainly there is this disposable income in with young people today. So that group is growing in the middle class.
Yeah.
And it shows in these concert ticket prices. So it might take some time, but there is certainly a space that is available.
What do you think about the potential of these new comic distribution websites that have come up, like Comics Canal and things like that? What do you think of the potential for artists to grow through those and sell more through those things?
I am not so sure about it. I mean, I know. I mean, I might not have an opinion on it. Because I'm not sure what really the business model is on these kind of platforms.
Right. So at least from what they have mentioned right now, it's like they basically take like a 13 to 25% cut from what each sale, and they handle the promotion and distribution and all that themselves, and the couriers and everything.
Yeah, it's a good new attempt, and I think one should keep at it, because that will also help us get some much needed statistics. And so I'm fully for that, though I haven't kept Vérité on it yet. I will. I'm yet to do that, but I'll certainly. That is an encouraging sign that at least you're trying to organize the independent comics distribution system online, and that's very welcome for sure. I mean, for those who don't know, the Comics Canal, no, it's called, is a new distribution platform that they're starting for independent self-published comics online, with a 70-30 kind of a system. So 30% goes to the distributor and 70% to the artist. Having said that, but I also feel that a lot of the material is kind of lost in that online space, and a little more needs to be done to like kind of arrange the material in a certain in some kind of order. I don't know what that might be, but maybe genres or something like that. Some kind of system of organizing the material would, I think, be helpful to find interesting stuff.
Right. I think even that can only happen once they have enough titles coming in, because right now it's just a small scattering of different genres that don't necessarily, people might be interested in one particular author but not none of the others and all that. So
Yeah,
it's
it's too all over the place. And it's anything and everything. So I think there has to be some kind of a system. Yeah.
Excuse me, back to Aparna. I'm quite curious if other titles of Cosmics are doing, how they are doing, especially the title like Nirvana,
Yes.
which is totally look like Japanese.
Manga.
So
Yes.
they sell as well as much as yours do.
Yes.
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 Actually, okay, into that, there is a big problem among the artists, first of all, because in cosmics, they have started with Yoga Lakshak, which was totally Indian. And after that, to make profit, they have turned to making manga. So Nirvana was their own title. And if the first chapter in Nirvana sold very good, it has just like 500 copies in within a month. It was very good because the young audience really wanted to, wanted to read manga, and that was Indian made, so they really up to it. The first chapter was good. Second chapter, because of the cosmics, like audience read the lost the interest if the it will take a lot for if the book take a lot of time to release, you know like thrill will die and everything. So cosmics actually did what they have take around 6 months to release the second chapter. So like there because of that gap of 6 months, the audience have fall. So basically I think this gap, basically India does not have more of an artist, and cosmic is like a small company, and they could not keep the artist to work on that manga because it was their project, not the artist. So I think because of this wrong gap, Nirvana could like not selling well now right now. Only the first chapter did very well when it was released, and because of that, like it's there is a downfall right now. And this
I
is why I'm trying to keep the pace of 3 chapters. As you can see that I'm the sole artist in this sole contract. And so if like more artists want to create that kind of art style, then they can like join and everything. But also like financial budget problem because of that. Like artists work like 8-hour job per day and they do not receive that much that much wages, so they eventually leave the work. So
I
this is the main reason. Yeah.
So you have to publish quickly the next.
Yes.
I see. Thank you very much.
The work of second chapter is done. Like from my side, I did like 5 months ago. I did the second chapter completely. Like I have sold the pages of second chapter as well in my slide. So like I did my second chapter work 5 months ago. The publishing house is the one who is like taking the time to print it and edit it. So I think hope they do not delay it.
I see.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Doitasimaste.
So
You're welcome.
yeah, thank you so much. If there is other questions, please go ahead because we are running out of time. Yes, please.
To Bharat, this was my last question. When are you accepting new ideas for Verite 6 or 5?
4 right now.
4. Okay, okay. So Verite 5. Are you accepting any new ideas as of
We
now?
can talk, yeah. I mean, you just send an email and then we can take it from there.
Okay, okay. Do send me an email, your email ID in Instagram, then I can share my idea with you.
I can send it right here for everybody.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic.
Bharath, you have content, Indian content for volume 4 sorted?
The Indian content is still not complete. I mean, I've got to get Lokesh I've got to push Lokesh a bit to finish his story. So that's almost done. And then there's a little bit of work left. But I'm not sure exactly when I can put them together as of now. Maybe in a month or two, I suppose.
Will the new issue available in Japan through Takoshi or somewhere?
Not it's not there at Takochi.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
That we can arrange a few copies to be sent to Takochi, but that we have to like work it out.
Not too many months ago. I was married, but I was a childless cat lady. What does that even mean? It just
Yes. So any other questions, please? It's almost time now. Yes. Any comments from speakers? Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. Although my English is so poor, we had very nice discussions, and I'm very grateful for the speakers. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for joining us for all audiences. So I hope this kind of conversation will continue, and this exchange between India and Japan will last for long. So thank you very much. And for the ones who missed some part of this, I'll send a video link later on. So please watch that if you missed some part. So shall I close this session? Thank you very much. Yes, I learned very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Arigatou
Thank
gozaimasu.
you.
Thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。よろしくお願いし
ありがとうございます。
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございました。Thank you very much, Aparna-san. So, I hope to see your next chapter soon. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Toru-san, for inviting me here. It is really a big moment for me, to be invited here.
Yes,
So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was so lucky to meet you at Comic Con. Yes, yes. Thank you. So, actually, I have to complete the video recording, so I cannot leave. So, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
ます。大丈夫です。
はい。ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. So, I have to record this chat also. Ah, いや、確かに。編集経験者。
話忘れちゃったんですけど、インドにいますよ、経験者が、日本人で。ニューヨークで考えてみたっていう、近藤彩乃さんの編集者、今、インドで働いてる。
そうなんですか。ぜひ、将来的にはお願いします。
原さんからちょっとコメント聞きたかったけど。
本当ですね。確かに。
みんな英語で喋ってるから、それも壁じゃないですか。
いや、でも、原さんは喋れると思います。
どうだろう。まあ、フランス語は基本でしょ。
そうか。
英語できるか。
まだ、つながっているんです。
そうですね。どうすればいいのかな。
終了。
終了した方がいいと思うんですけど、皆さんが出られない。
終了すると、
はい。
レコーディング終わっちゃう。
本当ですか。じゃあ、終了すればいい。
でも、レコーディングした
ミーティング終了。
ちょっと、
これをクローズして。
レコーディングをクローズっていうのが、確かどっかに。
レコーディングちゃんとやりました？
これだ。はい。じゃあ、レコーディングを停止。